I'm Sam Scull. I'm one of the elders here at Crossroads, and today I'd like to share some thoughts and commentary on Matthew chapter 27. So with that, let's go right to it. So this is a long chapter. It's a full chapter. It's got lots of good meat in it. So today, because of time, I'm going to highlight on some of the main points in it, and I hope it blesses you. So we want to start out in verses 1 and 2. What we see is we see Jesus, who's been betrayed, now being delivered into Pilate's hands. In verses 3 through 10, we see Judas coming to full realization to the ramifications of his betrayal of Christ and what it means. And we see Judas becoming repentant in that, and he tries to return the 30 pieces of silver to the Pharisees and the scribes and the elders, which they refuse. And this actually fulfills scriptures for prophecy in Jeremiah, where it talked about they took 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom children did value. So we see fulfillment of scripture there in the Old Testament. Judas tries to return the 30 pieces of silver. The chief priests and the elders can't take it back. They really say this is blood money. They admit that they're complicit in the conspiracy to kill Christ, and so they buy the potter's field for a place for people to be buried. So in verses 11 through 14, you see Pilate now examining Jesus. Jesus has come before him, and he says to Jesus, "So are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus says, "So you say." And that's the only answer he gives. Jesus is very humble at this point. Before them, he knows what is coming. And then Pilate brings in the chief priests and the elders to question him, and they bring up all kinds of accusations and reasons that Jesus is a horrible person that should be killed and has blasphemed, and all the different things that they want to support their conspiracy to kill Christ. In verses 15 through 26, you see Pilate. He's really in a tough spot. So what you see is Pilate really sees that the chief priests and the elders want to crucify Christ because they're jealous of him and the works that he has done. You know, he has refuted them on every point. He has opened a new way, and they don't want things to change, which is why they want him killed. But Pilate's in a tough spot because, you know, what does he do? He has an innocent man before him. He sees the innocence of that man, but he also sees that the chief priests and elders have whipped up the people, and he's afraid of the mob of these people. And so he is trying to figure out a way out. And even during that time, when Pilate sits on the judgment seat, his wife has had a dream, and she comes to him and says, "Have nothing to do with this man because he's innocent. I have seen it in a dream." So as Pilate releases Jesus to the mob of people, you know, seeking his blood, seeking the crucifixion, the soldiers, Pilate says, "I wash my hand because this is innocent blood." So again, you know, Pilate is seeing this. He is not really a religious person. He is seeing it in the eyes of a man, and says that there is no fault in this person. He is not guilty, not to what you're saying he needs to be. So you see them take Jesus off. He's been scourged. He's been ridiculed. The soldiers take him and they crucify him, and it's a horrendous thing. And during the crucifixion, you see Jesus even in his last moments. He's hung between two, and he ministers to them, or he witnesses to them, and one of them accepts and the other does not. So even in his last breaths, you see Christ fulfilling his mission on this earth. And at last, life passes from him, and at that point, what you see is darkness sets in for 3 hours, and there are earthquakes. And even the centurion, who's the head of the soldiers that have taken Jesus, makes the comment, "Truly, this was the Son of God." So now the crucifixion is over, and what you see is his body is begged, and they take him and they put him in a borrowed tomb. And that is the end of chapter 27. But the great thing about the end of chapter 27 is that's not where the story ends, and the best of the story is yet to come. Pilate, again, is in a tough spot. What do? You've got this crowd of people that is gathering that is against Jesus, and they want to see him crucified. So Pilate devises a plan, and he says, well, let me get Barabbas. Barabbas is a criminal of some repute, and people really know the terrible, horrible things that he has done. And he thinks, if I put Barabbas out in front of the people and say, this is the feast, I can either give you one or the other. I can release one, which is the tradition. So he puts Barabbas out there thinking there is no way that they will pick Jesus over Barabbas based on the history and based on people's knowledge of Barabbas. But the chief priests and the elders have whipped the people out. And so when Barabbas is offered, they scream, we want Jesus, we want him crucified. And so Pilate's plan does not work. And what you see is he ends up giving Jesus up, has him beaten, has him scourged. The soldiers take him off. He's ridiculed, he's spit upon. He goes through all of the things, the humiliation that he's going to see before the final humiliation of being crucified.